Courage, vision, resilience. It's more than just a journey. It's a universe of endless possibility, where a single idea can change a man's life, creating new worlds from the ground up. I am Ricky. I'm your guide through the epic stories of Web3 pioneers. Join me and enjoy the podcast. The Tales of Web3.
Yo, what is up, everyone? This is your host, Ricky. Today, we invited my brother, Raf, to our podcast, The Tales of Web3. Also, the last episode of season 2, episode 10. So, hi, Raf. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you so much for having me, Ricky. Excited for this talk.
Awesome. Man, I've been working with you very, very closely in the past 2 months. I know a lot about what you're building right now. But let's start today with some intro questions. Please tell our audience a little bit more about yourself. How did you jump into the Web3 rabbit hole? And how did you end up here right now, building Commit?
Yeah. So the Web3 story is actually funny. A friend of mine who I've been in touch for many years introduced me to crypto at the peak of the mountain that we've been hiking to. We had very deep conversations about finance, cool. How work runs, technology. And he shared me the backstory of Bitcoin and how he got all so early. And it was just fascinating for me to understand all this, principles behind the space that we're in. And ever since then, I've been in crypto nonstop. That was 2017. Before building Commit, I was building Limitless prediction market, on-chain predictions market on Base. Limitless also started.
My favorite prediction market. My favorite one.
Yeah, shout out to the team. Limitless actually started as a game that me and my first co-founder CJ have been building for 2.5 years. We basically built this 2D pixel browser-based game where we had audio-video text chats. We rebuilt 30 different front ends, Yearn, Balancer, Perpetual Protocol, NFT marketplaces across, 14 chains, something like that. So, you would go into let's say Aave building, you would deposit your crypto, you'd get Aave A tokens, you would interact with Snapshot, vote into Aave, DAO, then have audio video text chats with the community if you wanted. Okay. So that was just cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And there was some other, big initiatives. I was also very deeply involved with humanitarian aid. We, when the full-scale invasion started in Ukraine, I started nonprofit. We actually started as a small fundraiser, turned into big nonprofit. We raised over $10 million. We donated $2.5 million. We helped around 400,000 people. We launched crypto debit cards. Coinbase featured that in documentary. There was a lot of different things happening. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I always know you are into public good. Tell me a little bit more about that side of things. When did you first touched on that? And then how did you find crypto as a powerful tool to help what you are building, the good causes in the world?
Yeah. In 2017, when I joined the space, I was fascinated by DAOs. One of the first projects I discovered and fell in love with was Aragon. Still shout out, to the team, great product. And I felt that there was always this movement of, openness, technology, permissionless. But then as I started getting more into research and understanding that, there's this meme, open source infrastructure, how the world runs. And then there's this all the dependencies. And then at the bottom, there's
yes,
random person in Nebraska, basically, right? A random person in Nebraska, basically shipping this, code and maintaining this repo since 2006. And most people don't even know what is that. I think there's a big problem in our space, how open source software is funded. And, there's a lot of amazing people in the space and projects, Gitcoin, Octant, and many others trying to focus on that, and many foundations, from Ethereum Foundation to others trying to fund these initiatives. I think at the scale, we haven't yet figured this out. So this is something I'm deeply passionate about. And I think actually helping people become sustainable in how they build and run their open source software that could be public good could really redefine a lot of tools that we use day to day for the better.
Nice. I think a lot of people talk about like helping people to build a sustainable business, right? And then for you especially, like you've been in this space for a long time, helping people actually achieve that goal. Can you share more about like what does sustainable means in your worldview? And then what are some of the best ways to help people actually build a sustainable business?
Yeah, I'd say that's subjective to everyone. When I start building something, I want to be clear like why I'm doing this and what is the end goal, right? I think when people start something, they should understand what is actually the ultimate goal they want to achieve, right? For some people, building a business that might be exit. For others, this is like them building an empire, right? They want to just keep on growing and bigger and bigger and better. And there's no right or wrong answer. I think that's also important to understand. For me, sustainability is ensuring that I can do what I really love to do as long as possible, right? And that means having enough resources, financial resources, resources to build it, people on the team, your drive, also taking care of yourself. I think this all adds up to this notion of sustainability. It's not just like financial thing, right? You can have a lot of money and other resources, but you might be ill, and you won't have energy, right? So it's really important to find a balance. It's funny that I say, that.
Yeah, for your reference, like Rav actually work until 4 to 5 o'clock a.m. area.
Yeah, I'm trying to get better at this. Yeah, but yeah,
we should. Both you and I, we need to take care of our body better.
Yeah. But you're running. That's good. You're exercising. Shout out.
20 minutes a day. Like I actually been taking a little bit lazy lately. I've been trying to walk instead of running, like fast walk, which I have to get better. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for sharing on the sustainable side of things. I also wanted to touch base on a little bit about commit, right? Because obviously we've been working on this for a while now, but I wanted to hear more about the origin story. Like, where does the idea come from, and then where you do wanted to take this thing in the future?
Yeah. So the real story started around 8-9 years ago.
What?
To take a step back,
What?
This is true story. So I really love doing like weird experiments. Like, hey, what happens if I'm not eating for a week, or I'm like not drinking, or I'm like I'm living in the woods or whatever, or I'm vegan for a month or a day, and then I basically love like challenging myself with like weird things, but like meaningfully. By weird, I mean what is maybe not like socially.
Yes, I feel
there's still like something there, right? And that idea, this exploring this idea led me to, and with my love of like startups, led me to start a small experiment. And I was like, oh, what if I actually build a network for people who want to challenge themselves? And at that time, I also watched this social network movie, and I was like, all right,
same.
Everyone that watches the movie wants to build this, social network. So anyway, I built this. It was extremely clunky. Nobody wanted to help me out. I did not have much experience, neither in like business or engineering side. So I eventually pivoted, but that idea stayed with me. This network of people who challenge each other. There's like virality. Everyone heard of Ice Bucket Challenge, right? But what if there's like thousands of them differently, right? And you have 100%. A place where you go to. And then crypto happened, life happened, but I kept on thinking of this idea. Earlier this year, when I was at Limitless, leading with the team and did a lot of research, I've been very fixated on this idea of what I call commitment markets or KPI markets. It's basically, what if we actually double down on this notion of having skin in the game? Because when people create something or when people say something, whether that's you socially say, hey, I want to do this, right? This is like a tweet.
Nothing happens. They forget about it.
Right? I mean, there's some reputational, like social reputation at stake, but people kind of don't care.
Most people doesn't care. Most people,
right? There's very few that take their word seriously, but yeah, for most of them, it's not almost like enough incentive. So there was like a simple primitive, right? What if you add skin in the game component in the form of crypto stakes? This is not a novel idea. Hundreds of people build different versions, going back to early Ethereum days of kickback. You show up to events, you get your money back. There's was commit pool that friends of mine built for fitness, but then they pivoted. There's other apps. There's maybe hundreds of different implementations of this idea built during hackathons, but I haven't seen yet anyone building it at scale. For me, what was really interesting is to push boundaries of this idea further, and instead of just fixating on specific app, which I think it's still important to test it out on the app scale, like one niche, but what if the underlying protocol is way bigger? So this is not just about like events commitments or fitness commitment. This is just about commitment,
Everything.
right?
Everything, dude. That I actually super agree with that. Like, I like for what you just said. Like, there's a lot of specific apps building in the niche. Even Steppen, right? That is a commitment, right? You purchase a shoe, you need to run for 30 days to get your money back, and then you start to actually earn revenue,
Yes.
right? That is a specific commitment for people who want to run. And like,
Exactly.
if you didn't mention that, actually, there's a I didn't like link it that way. I just think it's a run to earn game. But
if you think of this, a lot of things that you do in life are actually commitments. You go into a restaurant, having a date, you wanting to show up at specific time somewhere. It is all commitments, right? Like social commitments to yourself, or whatever.
yes,
So earlier today, I was jamming with one researcher about commitments, and something that I think which is extremely powerful primitive also for our space. It's not just applying commitments for social actions that we have, but also some underlying coordination mechanism like governance, right? It's not a secret that governance participation is low across so many, even like the biggest protocols in our space, right? What if you actually can add credible commitments there, right? What if that could be around brands? What if that could be around different fundraising mechanisms, right? I've been thinking of back in the days, ICO days. Imagine if people, when they would raise money, they wouldn't just get all of that upfront. Let's say they would get half of it or whatever the percentage, and then the other half would be decided by quote unquote accountability partners, would be the people who had this project's tokens, right? So if I knew that you fail or you scam people, well, bad news for you, you're not getting the other part of your money back. So there's some action mechanism to prevent these things, and I think this could be also powered with commitments. Yeah.
So many different ways to take it, and it's cool that commit is a protocol that can include all different kinds of commit, no matter, like you said, event registration, fundraising, milestone basis. Like, I like that. I really like it. Tell me like one because for the Tales of Web3, like, we always like to ask our guests stories, right? Specific stories that shaped who you are today, right? Some unique, interesting stories that only you are able to do, that also made you who you are. Tell me a story, no matter on like Limitless, right, back in the days, or building commit, right? Something that you think only Rap Miller can do, right? That is extremely interesting. It can be full of risk taking, funny, like what any kinds.
Yeah.
But give me one story.
Yeah. When I look back at my life and like just reflect on it, the most almost the highly meaningful moments for me were the moments where it's almost like, quote unquote, life or death situation. In some cases, like literally, in others, like more like situation based, right, metaphorically. And I'll give two examples. One is startup. So my previous co-founder CJ and I, we were bootstrapping to the level, we had this belief in the idea of this, like this like game environment, socializing people in metaverse and like experimenting with different governance methods and we wanted to build it like with the community. So we bootstrapped to the extent where we went through so many hardships. We didn't give up. And at the same time, I think that was like really a testament of how much we really believed in what we were doing. And at some point, it wasn't even necessarily like just startup. It was just like, just like you as individual finding energy, grit, and resources in you to just keep on moving. when you burn all of your money, you never raised funding, you still, find really weird resourceful way to get on going. I remember, I was taking like NFT loan against my NFTs to just keep on running.
Oh
It's
shit.
like funny times. But then and then, things get better, right? And then again, and this was just a constant roller coaster on one side. On another side, we were running this like huge, like initiative saving the like real people like on the ground. We went to like front lines together and seeing this like real use case of crypto. Like, there's whole this world that we're part of, myself including, speculation, buying, selling, all these different things that are kind of fun and whatever, enjoyable sometimes not. There's a lot of financial nihilism happening as well. But on another side, there's like real use case of crypto, with stable coins, direct aid, other, like anonymity, privacy, data preserving, etc. That when you touch that and you see, the real impact on the ground that powered by crypto, that makes you so like feel so much better about everything that we are doing as a space. And just going through this experience, having like the startup world and then this like real world, you sort of become a bit more humble in understanding that, well, what you're actually doing day to day sometimes might not be as clear whether it makes sense or not. Only when you like zoom out and see like actually the impact on the ground, you can understand like how much what you're doing is really critical. And sometimes critical means literally saving lives. Yeah.
That's pretty powerful. And I think the humble part, I actually agree a lot more. Like one thing I've heard, and also I personally feel like, is once you become a founder, you finally understand like other founders, like a lot of the reasoning behind their decisions, right? The hardships they're going through. Like other people just don't get it. You know what I mean? Like the constant struggle, right? The roller coaster feeling that people have been through. What do you, for you personally, what do you think is the hardest thing for you being a founder? Something that you have to constantly grinding and constantly trying to improve on.
So this is a thought process I noticed myself. It's really hard for me not to do what I'm doing. Like I'm really feeling bad, almost like life stops having meaning when I'm not doing what I'm doing. By doing what I'm doing, I don't just mean like commit or specific company. It's just like the process, right? You're just in this process, going again from 0 to 1 and then 1 to 10, 10 to 100, whatever that the number is. This is not necessarily just about, achieving some like dollar sign. It's more about like I think there's actually, for me, there's very few things in life that are as powerful as taking an idea and turning it into product and then something that actually brings some value, at least, to you, to your environment. And then ideally, if you can touch more lives, in the world, that's great. But if not, still. And throughout this process, I mean, something that I'm not great at right now, as you've seen, it's really hard to balance being like healthy or having like really,
Super hard.
yeah,
This is
like
a problem for
it's
all
hard,
of us.
like
Yes.
you can do that, but still, like on one side, you need to do X, Y, Z, but then that, well, I think if you really want to achieve breakthrough, it's almost like requirement that you just push harder. And I think for me, that's like the main thing, trying to find, because I understand deep down, obviously this is like long-term game, but at the same time, there's part of me that wants to move faster. I keep reminding myself, a week or is like 2% of the year, right? It's like literally 2%. Every week is like 2%. I need to move faster.
Kind of crazy, right?
2% is gone, right? And then you like, I'm not getting back this day and this hour. So I might as well at least discipline myself to do what's right. I'm not great, but yeah, this is, I would say, the most challenging thing for me, because I think at the end of the day, there's no competition for me. Like the people that building something closer to commit, similar, I'm really happy to see all of this, because it shows that there's demand, there's a lot of things. But my main competition is literally me, my psychology. I think this is one of the really the most critical things that you need to master. I'm still on this path, like when you're building something, especially like in the early days, and I think later on as well. But this is just like constant battle. Literally every single day, it's a day one. You start again. You need to discipline yourself. You need to remind and then, push again and again. Yeah.
Damn, that's a powerful experience. Thank you so much for sharing. Speaking of that, like, what do you think is the most powerful experience you had in crypto 2024? Or the most impactful or memorable?
I would say the most impactful thing was, it was a bit sad experience, but me resigning from my previous company, Limitless. I was running a company as a CEO, and then I resigned. I took time to, I traveled the world a bit. I spent time in the South, in New York, then in Asia, just trying to understand what I want to build next. And that was like a trading commit, taking time. And through that process, that was really like highly meaningful time frame of my life. I really, admire and love my co-founders, but I realized that it's time for me to move on. And that period of, pause that you take sometimes in between your endeavors, it's really critical to not only to like rest, recharge in a way, but also for me, that was a moment of time where I wanted to ensure that whatever I do next, I'm committed to it. I had different ideas. I think we all have ideas.
Important.
We're excited about, right? It's important to take time, even if that's it. This is the thing. Still take time, month, 2, 3, half a year, whatever the time is, to know after a certain period and experience that, all right, this is actually the thing. Because if you're going to focus on it, you might as well be ready for the next 3, 5, 10 years if it's going to work out. Yeah.
So and before that, you need to give yourself some time to think through what do you really want.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that pause was really meaningful. Thank you.
That's nice. That's nice. I think it's at Thailand that we first connected, right? A couple months ago.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I was in a residency. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. The next question is actually pretty fun and also spicy. So for the Tales of Web3 Season 2, a question that I ask all my guests is, please share one or a few extremely controversial hot takes that you got for our space, right? And obviously, like the hot take, I want it to be the hotter the better. So I'm gonna leave the stage to you for that.
Yeah. This is actually something that I started this intro video of Commit when I announced it. Like, a lot of people like conviction, a lot of people like skin in the game, and I think a lot of people in space, including many founders, they just talk about things. I want to do this, or even like public goods, right? We talk about public goods. Oh, I really care about public goods. Well, if you do that, you can show it in actions, right? It's not just about allocating $10,000 of grant to project. You can literally do more, maybe a percent of your token, or like 3. Like, I seen recently Punchy Penguins, they had like 4% allocation to public goods.
Yes.
I'm not sure like what specifically public goods.
What does that mean? But it's good. It's good.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, that's good. Like, I'm happy this is happening. This is one example, right? There's so many different examples. I think a lot of times people's words are not nearly close to their actions. Like, there's no match between that. And I think that we should become more responsible with, what we say and
what we say and what we do.
Well, I have this conviction, and also in a way, this is hypothesis, right? I'm still testing it. And then as a team, we're testing it, whether Commit can help solve this. Maybe not at starting like at small scale, and then hopefully at larger scale. But I think this is like something, I wouldn't say this like that much of like hot take, but this is one thing. Another thing, I've been like extremely bearish on meme coins. I really
a lot of people do.
Yeah, I really felt like extremely bad, like literally what the fuck is happening? What is wrong with our space? But I took time to educate myself and all of this. And right now I would say I'm still bearish most of them, but
like 80-20 instead of like 99-1.
Yeah, but I would say, like, if used right, they could be really force for good. I mean, starting from, really helping out with like something on the ground around the world with different crises to actually be a meaningful way for communities to build themselves, and build this movement. Because if you think of this, a lot of fungible tokens of projects, I mean, in the way they're memes, right? We call them governance tokens, but what is that? Well, I can also use meme coin as governance token, right? It's like like it's
Okay,
not,
the hot take is governance tokens can also be meme coins.
I mean, exactly. I think at the end of the day, we should be more open to weird experiments. I think meme coins are still weird experiments. To me, they make some of them make sense as long as they're actually aligning with something bigger and they're becoming like cultural movement. Yeah, and that's what I would love to see more of. Otherwise, everything else to me is just like pointless.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. Why do you think people are not doing what they said they're gonna do? Basically, what they tell out doesn't match their behavior.
Well,
I mean, this is a big question, right? Like,
yeah. I think there's different variables, but one of them I would say is just hard. For example, it's easier to come up with the idea, right? As I mentioned, commitments is not a novel idea, right? There's other people building on this, and I cannot say, whether a commit will succeed or not, right? This is all hypothesis. But something that I think everyone can almost guarantee is their level of involvement, right? At least to a certain extent. Like,
yes,
I can guarantee as long as, I'm healthy, I can think clearly and all of this, I can commit to this, right? But I think throughout your life, things happen, and then making excuses become less, they just become easier, right? And like actually doing the action becomes less and less favorable, because now you have other shiny things. When you have other things, maybe someone paying you more, why would you, commit to this or that? Yeah.
nice. Yeah, before we wrap up this episode, leave us some predictions you have for 2025. What is the year gonna be looking like?
I think we're going to see explosion of apps, because the infrastructure is there, extremely cheap, UX is way better. This year we've seen a rise of prediction markets. Prediction markets have been around since, I think, at least 2015. Shout out to Gnosis
I
and
think
many
so
other
too.
experiments. All right, it took almost a decade to see the growth, and not just growth, but like phenomenal growth, right? That's one thing. A specific thing I'm extremely passionate and like bullish on is NFTs. I know this is like maybe not a hot take, but I think NFTs will have a comeback in 2025. Actually, NFTs are
It's
still
already
crushing.
coming back. It's
Yeah,
already
already
coming back now.
I think it's worth paying attention. And then I would say something that's also happening. A lot of big players are shifting the gears towards how some of the funding flowing in the space, and the projects are coming, right, with the larger adoption of crypto. The recent election news in US, I think like things changing. So I think it's in my opinion, it's a great time to be in crypto and building crypto. So for people listening and thinking whether they should start or not, absolutely yes, you should start it now.
Great time, best time, super cycle ahead.
Well, I'm not sure if that's super cycle or not, but it's definitely a great time to build.
100%. Give me one or two apps, like besides prediction market, obviously, like you've seen this year that you extremely love and bullish on. Consumer apps.
Well, I'm an NFT person. I think maybe like not the best app, but I think Blur is still a good app. I use Blur. OpenSea is also good, but I prefer Blur more. That's one. The other one is, let me see. I think there's a great apps around Farcaster ecosystem. I mean, including like Warpcast, Farcaster Super, but also
a lot of them.
Yeah, just like Anoncast recent, right? You can post anonymously to Twitter and Farcaster. I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening there. Bountycaster, you can post, permissionless bounties. Also with the bot in your feed. I think there's like cool experiments happening in like this niche cases and like verticals that will grow over time.
Let's go. Thank you so much for sharing that. Before we go, just give us a little bit Schiller about commit. What's coming next? Why should people be excited about it? And yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So the first iteration, we had this amazing launch, with Cyber, with Phi, and other cool ecosystem initiatives and partners involved. I would say that version was specifically very narrowly focused on this campaign, just to get as much feedback as possible. Moving forward, the next iteration will have juicy features, including ability for people to create their own commits, choose accountability partners, choose different methods of verification. There's going to be different use cases. The one highly requested focus and niche is events, so we're going to also tackle that. So you'll be actually finally able to show up to event, a crypto side event, and see more people than there is actually RSVP number. And there's other exciting features being cooked at the backend.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, here we wrap up this episode, the last episode of the Tales of Web3 Season 2 with Ralph Miller. Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone. Peace out.